was talking to Nelson before we started that, things are opening. Certainly theaters aren't open yet. A couple areas aren't open. There's still restrictions, but overall, the opening is gone pretty well. I think the difficult thing is, are people going back? Are people going back to gyms, to restaurants? And I said this all along. I think managing fear is going to be a big part of this, and that's probably going to be prolonged for some time. I'm still hearing of people that are catching it. Actually, I heard the former very distinguished attorney here and former head of the state police. I was told was in intensive care last week. I'm not sure he's still there.
Don is?
Don Chesworth, I heard was in intensive care.
God.
Oh, really?
I look at Ted O'Brien, who at one time worked in that law firm.
Right.
Yep.
Doesn't
Well, I
now.
was going to say, those are two of my law partners at that firm.
It's scary. I just, one of my neighbors.
Oh, boy.
Don, and he said he thinks he's doing well because he posted something on Facebook. But it is a reality. And so, I think I said to Nelson before, during the course of this from March on, I would get probably between 100 and 200 emails a day and a number of phone calls. And so I start off at 5 o'clock in the morning. We try to answer. Most of the answers, we could not give people what they wanted to hear because the restrictions were so stiff. But we passed everything along, and the openings as they began, even though it did not really probably comport well with every business and every situation, the New York State numbers are still holding very well. Our Finger Lakes region, we're continuously under 1%. Once in a while it drifts up a little bit, but stays under 1%. So we're doing great. I think the issue now is, are people going back? And I have to say, I belong to a couple of gyms. I have not gone back to a gym yet. When I say I want to go, I have 2 daughters and a wife, which tell me don't go. So I think there are concerns that people have right now. I have gone to a couple of restaurants, went to one yesterday, masked on, and I think the places I've gone to are, I think, following the rules to the T. I give them credit. Of course, their capacity is down considerably, and I'm sure from a business standpoint, I don't think anybody is doing really well. And the concern that we all have, I'll start with the restaurants, is cold weather's coming. Now, by tonight, by sundown, you get out there at 7 o'clock, it's probably down to 50s or 40s. Pretty soon, 30s or 20s. So the outdoor dining is probably going to wane quite a bit. I can't speak to when the indoor capacities will go up. I do think a lot of what we're dealing with now is trying to assess the impact of schools, of colleges, universities, parties. Are we going to see this spurt? And we certainly have seen some little spikes here and there, but overall we are holding our own. So the most important thing is getting information from chamber leaders, businesses. What we do is we pass along everything. We have control room calls twice a week. Right now, we still keep those going. All 9 counties are involved. We deal with individual complaints. I will say the state has been very aggressive with anything with ABC law violations. So if you're an alcohol establishment, they've been very aggressive going in and doing inspections. We've had some complaints come through us. We pass them along to Vinny Esposito and the state partners. But even some things are being done, not through the control room. They're going out and just doing on-site inspections and checking in from time to time. So I just would warn anybody, any restaurant, any bar with an alcohol license to just abide by the rules. I had actually an email yesterday about a restaurant in Ontario County. I know very well. I've eaten there, way out in Ontario County near Seneca Lake. But this person said Friday night it was packed. People wore masks, but there's no distancing, shoulder to shoulder, and I'm sure people, they'll pay a visit. They'll do a warning at first. So they usually will go in and do a warning, but they follow up with enforcement, and it's a very expensive proposition to be out of business for all these months and have your license revoked or pay a fine. So, we really opt to try and get people warned. We don't want them to lose any more than they have already, but it's still going on. And I think Dr. Mendoza was in the media last week. Churches have become a focal point. He made a point saying not synagogues, not mosques, but churches. There was one, I think, out in the west side he mentioned by name. But with churches, it's close proximity. It's singing, it's people's breath coming out. I think that's one of the areas that we do right along would be problematic, just like at bars or gyms. I can't imagine being on a treadmill with a mask. I think it's very difficult for anybody right now. But that's pretty much where we're at. We're just trying to get information to the state as best we can. I know the county health directors are doing inspections, say with gymnasiums with the ventilation systems. I'm not technical, so a MERV 11, MERV 13, MERV 15. I can't give you the specs for each level, but I know that gyms are tasked to have a higher level ventilation system. I believe Eastview Mall has a MERV 11, if I'm not mistaken. But what I'm hearing across the board is people who've been closed, who are now open, are happy to be reopened, but they're challenged with customers coming in a level of business, also challenged with getting employees who maybe are out of work, found other work, don't want to come back to work. I think those are all challenges that businesses have, and I'm probably speaking to the choir on that one. So I'll stop. I think the best thing is take questions, because I could be a little redundant on this. There's not a whole lot of new news. We just kind of follow what the governor's coming up with every day or so in his announcements and trying to pass those along.
Anybody have a question for Bob?
So Bob, before the start of the school year, on all the social media, there's a lot of angst by parents saying, oh, they didn't want the kids to go there. They're concerned about that. And, parents, in the school system, we're coming through with, there are different types of things, although hybrid seems to be the most common like that. But it's kind of like, it came the first week and there's a lot of stuff, and I haven't seen a lot more. So is that an indication that maybe it's really working better than people thought? Or, what kind of feedback are you getting as far as the school systems?
That's a great question. In terms of primary and secondary schools, I think they're doing pretty well. I've not heard a lot of problems. I've seen the superintendent's plans for the most part. I think we should be proud of our schools. Obviously, Brighton, one of the best districts in the state and country, and others, the surrounding school districts, they have really done a great job putting plans together. And plans that are expensive, plans that are cumbersome and difficult. But I think overall they've done well. The sports situation has changed a couple of different times, and I think they've moved back sports seasons and made adjustments. But I do think the primary and secondary schools have done well. I'm a trustee at SUNY. I think some of the colleges and universities, not quite as well. SUNY has closed down a couple of campuses already. I talked to the chancellor a few minutes ago, and he goes out and visits sometimes a campus or two almost every day, several each week. He goes on point. Probably more of a challenge there because, 18, 21-year-olds, it's parties and frat parties and gatherings. And I've often thought that, I'm not sure if I'm 18 years old and a college freshman, if I would abide by all the rules. I know the town supervisor would. He would always wear his mask as an 18-year-old.
Forever 18, Bob.
I have
Forever
to admit
18.
I probably would not, my little wild days. And so you see that. I think the colleges have been a little more impacted, but the numbers are relatively small. When you think of the aggregate, how big some of these schools are, the numbers are small, but those that close or maybe shut down for a few days are being very cautious about it. But overall, I've always said this, our state, our region, we're doing very well because the everyday people are following the rules for the most part. They wear masks, they follow the rules. I think to maybe the angst of some businesses probably following the rules too much to the extreme by not wanting to go back out and get back in their old habits. And I do think that's going to be a gradual thing coming back. It will not happen automatically. It's happening slowly, but not automatically. And I've heard a lot of feedback. And we talked before, the JCC, a member of ours too, like the Brighton Chamber, some big layoffs at the JCC. We're trying to help those people laid off get employment elsewhere in the meantime, but hopefully that will abate over time and those people will come back. I think it's just it's the numbers in many cases don't work right now. I have teammates here at the chamber. One is a member at Planet Fitness, one at LA Fitness, and they say they'll go in. There might be like 10 people in the whole place, where at one time it might have been shoulder to shoulder. So right. I do think it's managing our habits and those fears. And as we come out of this, it might be a little bit slower than some of the businesses wanted to see. It will come, but I don't think there's any big explosion, except for maybe in some of the campuses of colleges where people are getting together for these social gatherings. But I'm not seeing a lot of crowds. And even at what I'm hearing, maybe you guys hear differently, but even some of the bars and clubs, pretty low key so far.
And it's
Dennis,
Bob
Dennis,
and
I actually spoke with Dr. Mendoza just this morning, and he really was very effusive in his praise for the local school districts, that they've done a phenomenal job. There has not been any indication, and there are very few of them, but the cases that have connected to the school, there was just one reported in West Arundecoit yesterday, all have been community spread. None of them, from a contact tracing perspective, have traced to the school itself, which is a real positive and a real indication that they're doing things right so far.
And I've seen all those plans, and they're fabulous. And I think there was an announcement made at one point or a press conference where those plans may have been diminished at a press conference. And I felt bad for the superintendents. I came to their defense at a meeting because what I've seen, I thought, this is our first pandemic. And I think they have done a great job. And, the ones that I've seen and really throughout our region, I've been very, very proud of. They are consummate professionals. They work with their teachers, their staff. It's been a team effort, but what I've seen so far, I've been super impressed with.
Beth?
Yep.
You're muted, Beth.
There we go.
There you go.
Hi, Bob. One of the things I just heard you say, I've gotten a number of calls from people who used to work at organizations that I've consulted with, and they've lost their job. I usually refer them to Rochester Works, but I heard you say the chamber has some opportunities for them or to lead them in a particular direction. Is that accurate?
Yes, we have a lot of job openings. We can't fill them fast enough right now. So Farrah Roman is in charge of our staffing team. If people need a job, call us, email us. We can't fill them fast enough. It's interesting. We had a team meeting today, and here's the problem. She has interviewed people. Some don't come to the interview. Some don't show up for the first day at work. And so, I saw an op-ed piece Sunday about we lack jobs. We don't lack jobs in some areas. I mean, some areas are cutting. They are. But other areas are expanding. It may not be what people want for their first choice, but in a crisis, I think we can get anybody at this point at different levels, entry level manufacturing up to mid and upper level jobs. We have a lot of openings, a lot of inquiries, and a lot of companies are thriving. It's some are struggling and some going out of business and some are thriving. So we're trying to help any way that we can if people are out of work. And I think everybody knows when I hear people say, well, the unemployment benefits are a big inhibitor. If somebody's out on unemployment and you offer them their job back, they have to accept or they basically will lose their benefits. So it's not like I can say, no, I don't want to come back to work. I'll take my $300 or $600 more. Once the company offers them to come back, if they choose not to, then I think their benefits get diminished, they get reported, and the company then goes and hires somebody else. So a lot of it is just people that may be out of work, they've been laid off from jobs, and maybe choose not to go to a certain job that's open. Maybe they're looking for what they want to do, but we can find people and match them up anytime. And I know Josh very well from the JCC. They're members of ours. We've offered help in any way that we can.
These are mostly executives that are calling me, but I will definitely pass on the chamber. Thank you.
Thanks, Beth.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Bob, we've heard a lot about businesses no longer feeling that they need to be in the largest metropolitan areas. What is the chamber doing to take advantage of Rochester as, we've been number one or high up on some lists as alternative communities, and obviously in Brighton, we've been working hard to try, you and I have talked about some things, but economic development here in Brighton is very important. How is the chamber working on that? How is the chamber encouraging businesses in this new era to come to Rochester?
We're doing a lot right now. A lot of outreach. I think we push from marketing, from our partnerships with the Rock 2025 team, which I'll talk about another program in a minute. We are selling the fact that we are affordable. We have very little traffic. You can come here and work anywhere, and really, if you're living in New York City and in the New York metro area or Chicago or DC, and you come here, you will save a lot of money on your living expenses, on your rent or home purchases, and live very, very well. And I think today a lot of companies are going to a much more remote workplace. We're looking right now at the Tulsa model. If you've probably heard about that, Tulsa was paying people $10,000 to come to Tulsa. You work anywhere you want, but $10,000 to move, help with your moving expenses, and then live there and work remotely. We have a team looking at that right now with us and Rock 2025. And we have actually Barb Egenhofer, who is one of our talent leaders, is putting together a program right now. We've done a lot of research on Tulsa. If we're ready to pull a trigger, we'll let people know a little more research on it. But Rob Sands has been phenomenal. Rob Sands is kind of leading the effort, raising private money to make this happen. So it would not be government money. It'll be private money making this work. But I do think we have a lot to offer here. The tough thing, I'll be blunt, the issues of the last 2 or 3 weeks in Rochester have not been good in terms of public relations or publicity for us. Not the handling of a Daniel Prude case, and not the killing of these 2 children last weekend in a mass shooting. I could not think of worse negative news coming out. We have to ride that out. We'll come out of it. We'll get better and get back on track. But I talked to Rob, and actually we canceled some of the marketing spots we're putting out for the region until this all blows over. But you know, it's not fatal, but it's not a good look for us at all. We don't want to see ourselves in the front page of the New York Times and the Washington Post and USA Today for things that aren't positive. And we've been there several times over the last probably 3 weeks.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I appreciate the work you and the chamber are doing. You talk about picks up the phone. Well, you pick up the phone, and I appreciate that. And when there's an opportunity, you engage with me, and I know with other community leaders, and that's really important. And I, hope we can continue to find those opportunities as we come out of this, because this is a great community, great place to be.
I agree. If you have leads, let us know. We'll follow up with you. I have a daughter in real estate, and she tells me all these stories. She has people coming in from all over. Harris Corporation is bringing in talent from all over the place.
I just married a couple of Harris people last week. We were joking about, that they couldn't tell me what they do. They'd have to kill me. But
that's right. A lot of great government work.
They are booming.
They are. They're expanding their base. They're recruiting here and elsewhere. But my daughter's told me on a few stories she has been involved with. People just choose to live here, and right now could be spouses. One can work remotely, one can find a job, and to work anywhere. I could imagine right now. I've always enjoyed New York City, but I want to be in Rochester. I would not want to be in New York City. I would not want to be quarantined on the 25th floor of a building where I couldn't go outside. Mm-hmm. Where here you might wear a mask for a while, but within 45 minutes to an hour, you could be in Center City, out to lakes, mountains, parks. We have it all in this region. So I think we have to sell it. And, every region has negative news. We have it. We'll get through it. But I think once this blows over, and it will, we get back on track, I think we're going to be intensifying this recruitment effort. And again, I appreciate Rob Sands and his generosity and involvement with this. And it's not ready to be kicked off yet, but once it is, we'll share it. And I would urge you, just Google the Tulsa Project. It's pretty widely publicized out there, but it's just paying somebody money to move in and work. And obviously they buy a home or an apartment, they become part of your community, and that money stays here as opposed to elsewhere.
Right. Any other questions for Bob? Then Bob, I want to thank you very much. We really appreciate you spending some time with us.
Nelson, thank you. Anything really? I wasn't kidding. As a fellow chamber brother, anytime you need something, let us know. We support business, and I know that this chamber was hit especially hard along Monroe Avenue. Some of the stores, I certainly listened many times during the pandemic. I just hope they come back. I hope the JCC can get back to normal, and it's going to take
Right.
time.
Right.
And I'll close by saying this. I'm not an economist, but I do think we're going to hit some tough times into the end of 2020, maybe the first 2 quarters of 2021. It's not over with yet, but this community is known for coming back and coming back strong. There's nothing we've not faced that we've not rebuilt and come back. We may make some adjustments. A big thing is keeping people here, keeping the talent here. And while Kodak downsized, tremendously since the time I grew up, that a lot of that talent stayed here and is here today, helping other companies. So we can't forget that. And keep in mind we have 19 colleges, universities. I see Empire State College is on the call today. They have a great new chancellor who's got some connections to Empire State, and I just think that a lot going for us. But I just would offer, and Nelson knows this, and Bill, if I can help in any way, call, email, anytime. If you have a question, let us know. I have a dynamo on my team, Mark Cohen, who can answer any COVID question in about 90 seconds. But if we can help getting you information, getting you an answer to something, helping in some way, just let us know.